Nate G 219 to hell by back and better. But y'all know what it is. Another one coming at you. First, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that channel if y'all want to help out. Hey, guess what? Still, Merry freaking Christmas, y'all. December 25th. Getting a little later in the evening, you know, shower time. Got to get back into the routine of work tomorrow and stuff like that. But, got another reaction for you. Another one from Vlad TV. And again about Pinocchio, a.k.a. Michael Thompson. The Aryan checking. Let's get into the video, guys.
Okay, so you get sentenced, and at that point, you got sent to Folsom Prison?
No, I went to Tracy first. I went to Chino as the reception center. That's in Chino, California. And then I was scheduled to go to San Quentin. But they didn't have the bed space, so they diverted me over to Tracy. That's a dual vocational institution in Tracy, California.
Okay, so how long after Tracy did you end up going to Folsom?
Okay, so I was at Tracy 2 years, and then I was...
Just want to add one thing. This reaction is titled something along the lines how Michael Thompson became an Aryan Brotherhood member. Just wanted to fill you in about what this was about. That's all I know is the title. I didn't watch the video. I haven't done anything except record it, and I wasn't even in the room recording, so.
Special transport to Old Folsom Prison. And I arrived there, I think the end of 77. Went to the hall. I wasn't on the main line. I went into their... back then they didn't have a security housing unit. It was just the hall. And so that's where I was housed.
Okay, so you come into prison, originally at Tracy, like you said, and you're 6'4", you can bench 600 pounds.
Eventually.
So you're a fairly big guy.
Yeah. I would...
I've met a lot of strong-ass dudes in my life. 600 pounds. Maybe with your legs. But, come on, man. Your ego might have been able to lift 600 pounds. Your arrogance and ignorance might have lifted 1,200, but... Sorry, dude. You're a chump. You ain't benched no 600 damn pounds ever in your life. Maybe 600 pounds with every pound you've ever lifted.
At that time, I weighed 285. I eventually went up to 310, and I wasn't lifting twice my body weight at that time, 620. Eventually, I did. But at that time, I was hitting over 400 pounds.
Okay, so you're a big, strong guy.
I am.
Essentially. Now, there was a situation that happened where the Nuestra Familia, a.k.a. the Norteños,
Yes.
Attacked you.
Well, no.
So for those that don't know, the Norteños are Northern Californian Chicanos. If I'm not mistaken. If I am, please correct me. But the Southsiders were from Southern California. The Norteños, and you've got many subsets of many different affiliations amongst those.
It wasn't really the Nuestra Familia that attacked me. What it was essentially Border Brothers, what they call Border Brothers. Now they have an organization that they call PISAs. But back then, they were what was considered by the Nuestra Familia as expendables. So it was a situation where I worked in the chapel. That was my first job. And for maintaining the chapel, I was given the garden between the two chapels.
If you don't know about prison and the penitentiary, I'm not talking about county jail, church. I'm talking about the prison, churches, the chapel, whatever. There's a whole lot of, beaten meats on cheeks. if you know what I'm getting at. A lot of people giving up booty, which I've seen some things that have now said that, I mean, this dude's a freak on top of things.
Just my Native American spirituality. And in so doing, you want to remember that it was against the law to do that back then. We weren't able to practice our ways, nor were we able to speak our language. And but the chaplain, I made a deal with the chaplain. He was a very open-minded individual, and he allowed me to use the garden to practice my ways, which I did. I was practicing my ways out there, and the priest in the Catholic chapel across from the Protestant chapel took issue with what I was doing. He considered it devil worship. And I think that was probably because not very much was known about native practices at that time. So he sees a big...
Probably had a lot to do with his self-proclaimed "I'm a warrior" mentality. I mean, you're a chump, Pinocchio.
White boy out in his garden doing things that were contrary to his covenants and tenets. And I think he complained to his parishioners, some of whom were Nuestra Familia. And then the Nuestra Familia made arrangements to have these kids attack me in the garden. Attempt to kill me, actually, in the garden.
Okay, and how bad was that attack?
Well, not very. There was 7 of them, and they had knives. The knives they had were usually used for neck shots. They're called neck pieces. The boot factory is located in Tracy. And back then, when they made boots, they used to put a spring steel piece of a bar in the arch of the boots. And it was about 4 to 5 inches long. So they would take that, then they would draw that back on both sides, put a handle on it.
Now, I do know that that is a true thing, that about the metal arch in the boot, and that the fact that they used to have them in state boots across the country. I've never seen one, but again, I was not in prison until 2013. I never hit a prison. So, never got to experience that part. But when I went behind the maximum security wall, there was a metal shop. I'm talking people were bringing in steel, solid fabricated steel. People were making machetes out of the end of their bunks. So, I don't know, Pinocchio.
And it made an excellent neck piece, but it really wasn't good for anything other than that. I mean, you could poke some holes in an individual, but that's about it. But these individuals, they weren't trained. They didn't know what they were doing. They actually had the pieces taped into their hands. And the only time you do that is when you're either afraid of losing it or having it taken away from you. And
when you poke somebody up, they bleed. When they bleed, you get blood on you. When you get blood on you, on your hands especially, where it's going to go, because you're poking them with something that's only made for the neck. It's only made to take a life. You're going to get blood on your hands. That blood's going to be slippery. It's like lubrication. You heard him in another video talk about they used the victim's blood to keister their knives. So they used somebody else's blood for lubrication. I think he just did it to keister something. I just think he likes keistering something, because I heard he did it handle first. Sissy.
So they'd come out the side door. I was out in the garden practicing my ways. And the point man, they formed a wedge coming out the door, and the point man, once I realized what was happening, I just simply knocked him out and rolled away from the rest that were coming out, and they kind of Keystone Cop fumbled out the door out into the yard, These were not individuals, like I said, that were, I've heard people say, oh, trained assassins. No, they weren't. They were what, like I said, the Nuestra Familia calls expendables. And
so, yeah, he wasn't a warrior. He was a chump. He didn't knock anybody out. I'm sure he's knocked people out, but they were probably looking the other way. They were probably high, knotted out on heroin or something, because look at this dude. He's built like Woody from Toy Story.
I doubt very seriously if they'd ever held a knife before. And I doubt very seriously if they'd ever been in a fight in their life. But, so, no, this was, when you say, was it a serious situation? Certainly I took it seriously, and certainly they were trying to kill me. And so I dealt with it accordingly.
And this happened in Folsom?
No, this happened to Tracy.
So, again, 7-on-1, and he comes out on top. Pokes up 16 people in one day, comes out on top. Come on. You're not Iron Man, you're not Superman. Plenty can take your life, not just kryptonite, you chump.
This is actually what led to me going to Folsom.
Aha. Oh, so that situation sent you to Folsom.
It was one of a couple situations. There was a major altercation on the yard, and same day, that I was also involved in. So I went from the garden setting. It was a lieutenant that opened the door and told me that the people that had ordered my killing, the Nuestra Familia, were out on the yard as an alibi when I was going to be murdered. So he let me out to the main yard, and in conjunction with that, there were a couple of bikers I knew that were taking issue on behalf of another individual that had been threatened by the NF. So the three of us, and perhaps there were a few more, we went out to the yard, picked up a few baseball bats, and began to handle those individuals on the yard. And it was only after shots fired that that was stopped. I was placed into the hole, let out 2 weeks later with no charges, pretty much set up in the unit, got into another altercation, and so smuggled.
So, any man that's been involved in this many altercations in such a short time is clearly a problem. He's getting picked on by every other race, trying to get picked up by Black Panthers. I mean, get the hell out of there on that. Not saying it's impossible. We're talking between 75 83. 1983. Sorry. A white boy in prison was not offered to join with Black Panthers. They're lucky to even... You'd be lucky to consider him an ally, let alone aid and assist or anything else.
We got into the prison with a box of shells and made what amounts to a silencer, but it's not really a silencer because it was a revolver, but it suppresses the sound somewhat. So I was charged with the suppressor, but they never found the gun, they never found the cartridges, and as a result they put me in a car and took me up to Old Folsom so that the old guard up at Old Folsom could convince me to tell them where the gun was at.
Okay. Once you got to Folsom, was that when gangs started to try to recruit you?
It is, yeah. The first to recruit me was Hugo Yogi Pinnell. He was their leader of the Black Panthers at that time.
What would be the point? Woody? Woody from Toy Story? Goofy ass. White trash. Hillbilly?
He's oftentimes confused with the Black Gorilla family, but he was not a member of the Black Gorilla family. You had to be black to be a member of the Black Gorilla family. He was Nicaraguan. But he'd been with the Black Panthers since about 1970. He'd just come from San Quentin, where he and George Jackson had taken over the adjustment center. and cut the throats of guards and white inmates there. Jackson was killed, but Yogi wasn't, so he was sent to Folsom. So he had the yard at Folsom, and he was in the hole, and he approached me. What had happened to Tracy preceded me via the inmate grapevine, and so he approached me and attempted to recruit me into the Black Panthers.
Again, first of all, I don't believe that whatsoever. Neither does the couple former Aryans that I still talk to. They don't believe you, Pinocchio. Because you're a chump, you're a liar. I heard on another podcast that this dude was a chump. He was taking advantage of his own race. This guy's nothing. He's the scum of all scum. And why he's been a free man is beyond me. Because if any of this was true, he should hit 3 strikes 30 times. 30 times. That's facts. Pinocchio ain't speaking no facts.
Were there any white people in the Black Panthers?
I don't know that there was or wasn't. I know at one time they established what they called the White Panthers, but I don't think that they discriminated. I think that if you were down for their cause, then you were recruited and used in whatever capacity that they saw fit. So, like I said, Yogi was Nicaraguan. He wasn't black. And perhaps that answers your question. But
okay, well, you ended up not joining the Black Panthers.
That's true. I declined Yogi's attempt to recruit me.
Mm-hmm. And instead, you ended up joining the Aryan Brotherhood, a.k.a. the AB.
Eventually, I did, yes.
He joined the AB, eventually. The Aryan Brotherhood. The brand. Because he's a Caucasian male in prison in Folsom in the 80s. Maybe late 70s, early 80s. And yeah, I know that there are Caucasian members of the Black Panthers, but I can almost guarantee in prison in California in those years, there wasn't even one thought of, let alone one trident that was pledged to join, that one that was voted to, hey, come with us. And that would have been a death sentence had you even considered it. It would have probably been a death sentence to even have been invited in at that point in time. We're talking 40 years ago, guys. Not 14 months ago. I mean, nowadays, there's so many. I think the BLM movement is majority white. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter, because every life does matter. Black, white, green, yellow. I don't care. Every life matters. Every life is one of God's babies. Regardless of who they are, what they've chosen, as far as the path they've chosen in life, they're still one of God's children. And I just can't believe anything this guy says. I've heard he's a demon. He's just a demon in disguise, as Woody from Toy Story.
Approached by T.D. Bingham at that time, and he attempted to recruit me, and when he did, I declined. At that time, I was still fighting members of the Black Panthers and the BGF, usually pretty much every time I went to the yard. And in the time that I was at Folsom, I was in 18 knife fights, and I'd been shot numerous times with M14 shotgun, and one time with a 30-06. as a result of those knife fights. But eventually I did.
Okay. Large calibers, just saying. 30-06 would have put a hole this big in the back, or the front, the entrance, and a hole this big out the back. 30-06, unless they clipped his boot, I'm pretty sure he's got his legs, but sorry. Not sorry. You lying piece of shit.
Join the Aryan Brotherhood, yes.
Okay, and I mean, the Aryan Brotherhood is considered a very racist organization. I mean, in fact, the Anti-Defamation League calls it the oldest and most notorious racist prison gang in the United States.
Well, the Anti-Defamation League is correct in part. I think that could probably be said now, but back then in the 70s, I don't believe that was true. The people that actually recruited me into the Aryan Brotherhood were Native American, and the 4 of them were members. So, the racism doesn't...
Now, as much as people find this hard to believe, I do know that, well, I don't know for a fact, from what I've read and heard, towards the beginning, especially in California, there were a lot of Native Americans that were upper echelon Aryans. They were the shot callers, telling this chump what to do, and this chump, yes, massa, definitely did it. Pussy.
Oh, T.D. Bingham, who attempted to recruit me at first, is Jewish. People say, well, he's only half Jewish. But his mother was Jewish, and he's Jewish, and he wears a Star of David on his body with pride. But he's not a practicing Jew, which is, to me, irrelevant. But back then, the idea of the Aryan Brotherhood, along with the Black Panthers and the Black Guerrilla Family and the Nuestra Familia and the Texas Syndicate and Mexican Mafia, were all about controlling the resources. Racism was not high on the ticket. It isn't to say that you didn't have racists within the organization, as you did in every organization. But it creates a problem, I think, when we talk about the history of the Aryan Brotherhood or any other organization insofar as racism. Certainly now, they should be considered right up there with hate groups and the quintessential racist organization. But that was an evolving process over the last 40 years or so.
Okay, so, man, that guy's such a chump. He just lies and lies and lies and lies. Now, I can't say 100% whether Native Americans were in charge or running anything or were even actually branded members. But I can't say that they weren't, because of what I've read and what I've seen on History Channel, Gangland, stuff like that. Yes, I've heard that. Now, in Indiana, not so much. I think I've met 2 Native Americans in the state of Indiana. I've met more Amish in prison than I have Native Americans. And that's a fact. They usually get caught up cooking meth or embezzlement, just all sorts of crap. Some incest. Mostly drug dealing, though. They figure out they can manufacture crystal methamphetamines, and they do. And they make a hell of a living off of it. But tell me what you think about this guy, man. Like this story alone, this is one of 4 that I've done now, maybe 5. I mean, I reacted to 4 videos of his earlier. The only thing I've heard truthful is how certain things work as far as the judicial system. He was talking about the minority being in court and not really having a chance, having all white juries That's a fact. Everybody knows that. Those are facts. But a majority of what this chump says is nothing but lies. But that being said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the evening with my family. It's Christmas night. I got to go back to work tomorrow. But never forget life's choices. But also hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that channel if you want to help out, guys. And always remember, if they ain't hating it, you sure as hell ain't making nothing.